Well, so far it's looking good. We have everybody voting no that they don't have a LinkedIn profile.
Hey, good thing we're doing this.
Yeah, this is a good group.
We'll wait maybe one more minute.
And while we're waiting too, if anybody wants to type in what campus or what state they're coming in from, we can kind of see where you all are attending from. Awesome to see Minneapolis in the house.
Minneapolis, another
Mhm.
one. That's great.
Okay, should we get started?
Yeah. All right. Let's kick
All
this
right,
off.
let's do it. Well, welcome, Phyllis, Marissa, Namunyu, and Gao. Thank you for joining us on our virtual training on networking in times of COVID-19 and beyond. So I'm Jenna Mani. I'm the career development coach for the Minneapolis campus, and I'll be moderating tonight's training. If you haven't done so already, please answer the poll that popped up on your screen when you first joined the Zoom. And also make sure to comment in the comments in the chat below and tell us where you are, where you are joining us from, what part of the country. Let's see, somebody else is just coming in. So since everyone except for the presenters are on mute, if you do have any questions or comments, please use the chat feature to post them, and I'll be moderating those throughout the training. So today we're all being joined by two of my esteemed colleagues, Rachel Mogg and Jennifer Osborne. So the three of us are the most important people for you to get to know on your respected campuses. And I think you're really going to enjoy tonight's training on LinkedIn. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Rachel to get us started.
Well, hello. I'm Rachel Mogg, and I reside in Florida, and I assist all of the online non-healthcare students, so including all of the online students that are in the programs of criminal justice, IT, paralegal, accounting, and some diploma programs in there as well. So excited to assist all of those students, and welcome to our training, and I'll hand it over to Jennifer to introduce herself.
Yep, welcome everyone. So I am the career coach for the Akron and Birmingham campuses. So we're all super excited to have you here. Thank you for attending. The three of us put together the slides that you'll see, and we're also here and available to work with you afterwards so that you can get a little bit more one-on-one coaching. So I'm sure you know who your career coach is, but if not, feel free to reach out to any of us. We'll make sure that you are paired with somebody. That one-on-one attention is what can really help you take this to the next level. So without further ado, we will get started. Rachel, if you want to move us forward.
Maybe. There we go.
Okay, there we go. All right, so today we are going to be talking about virtual networking in times of the COVID-19 and beyond. So we thought this was a really good time to chat about networking and specifically about LinkedIn because we are all stuck in our houses. So because of the quarantine, it's a good time to think about what can you do, what can you control, how can you help yourself, and absolutely, this goes far beyond the quarantine, far beyond COVID situation, into just what your life is going to look like after this. So thankfully, we saw that a lot of people mentioned that they do not have LinkedIn profiles just yet. So this is a good group to work with. We're going to discuss networking, and specifically, we're going to talk a lot about LinkedIn. So before the end of today's meeting, you should understand the value of networking through LinkedIn, learn the fundamentals of a strong LinkedIn profile, and begin making valuable connections and interacting with others on LinkedIn. So those are our promises to you. If we don't keep them, please let us know. All right, so another opportunity to get into the chat box. Are employers hiring? What do you think? Please go into the chat box and type Do you think that they're hiring? Rachel already kind of gave you the answer. So what do you think? Are they hiring? What's going on? Are people nervous? Are they locked down? Is it certain fields? Who's hiring? Who's not hiring? What do you think?
How do you post your chat comments? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. So if you look to the bottom of your screen, you should see some different buttons, including one that should say chat with a little blurb above it. And if you click on that, it'll open up a box that gives you the chat box, and then you can type. And just make sure that the to says everyone and not just panelists or anything else. So
Okay.
let's see if you can try it out.
So I have something typed. How do I post it?
So click enter. You type something, then click enter. There we
Oh,
go. See?
okay.
Now, because you have a beautiful name, how do you pronounce your beautiful name?
Munyu?
Muniu.
No, Namunyu. Like this.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll-
I feel like you muted it right as it was going.
He's typing it out for us.
Namunyu. Thank you. Perfect. I appreciate that. That's perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we got a few answers in the chat. I don't think anyone is hiring right now. My job has a hold on hiring. Josh says yes. I think people are hiring. Anybody else? Any other suggestions? Hiring or not hiring, different fields. Jenna says she's nervous. Jenna is nervous. That has nothing to do with the job market. Okay, thank you, Namunyu. Perfect, yes. So I would agree with you. I would agree with all of you. Some employers are not hiring. Some employers might be on a freeze, but by and large, my opinion is that they are hiring. So here's an example of a message that I received recently, as you can tell with the dates. So this is Cleveland Clinic, which is a very large hospital chain. They have over 26 institutes and 120 specialties, and they are desperate for people in a lot of their locations. So this is one example to show you that they have gone over to virtual networking fairs to try to drive in people. They absolutely are hiring. There are a lot of organizations that are hiring, while absolutely there are some that are not. So it's a good time to think about it. You are not locked down. You are not obsolete from opportunities. There are a ton. But it's figuring out where are they and how do you see who's hiring and how to get there. All right, so maybe you're looking right now for a position, maybe you're not. If you're not, that's even better because networking should happen long before you start doing that job search. So based on data and analysis from performance-based hiring learning systems, upwards of 80% of jobs are found through networking. So examples of networking include job fairs, shadowing, clinical rotations, preceptorships, internships, externships, former colleagues, social networks, the people that are here today. This is a brand new group of people that you're networking with. So anytime you're involved in a group, you're meeting people, it gives you an opportunity to demonstrate your value. And value is really what that connection is about. It's really what networking is about. So networking should always be mutually beneficial, and you can start with the people you know in your life. So to give you one real world example of that, how I actually came to Herzing University, about 3 years ago, I was living in Georgia and I was looking to move to Wisconsin. So I knew that I could get on Indeed. I can get on monster.com and see thousands of jobs, but I may never hear from anybody. So instead, I went on LinkedIn and I found a former colleague of mine that I worked with about 12 years ago. And I said, hey, this is my situation. I loved working with you. I would love to pick your brain on what the environment is like right now, any suggestions you have in Wisconsin. And so my former colleague was like, oh my God, I work at Herzing University. It's the best place ever. Let me connect you. And so 3 years later, I'm still here. She's still here. And it was a really good networking opportunity that paid off. And it paid off because there was a lot of value for both people. So if you wait until you are ready to apply, you are late to the networking party. this is something that I would love to sink in. Today, we're going to talk about why you should use LinkedIn, why you should have a network, how to create that network, what you should be doing. But really, the point of it is it's a lot like a 401k. You should start early and you should invest often. That's the way to really build up a network that's going to give you the most potential return. So that's why that first point, networking should occur early and often. It means that from the time you start in school, from the time you are ready, from today, you should be creating a profile so that you can build it up. It can look excellent. And by the time you need that network, when they look back up, hey, let's look up Phyllis and see what she's doing. There is an excellent resume, an excellent electronic profile that they can see your value and they know what you've been up to. So it should start way before you ever think that you're going to apply for a position. So create a profile long before you seek to apply. Create a profile long before you seek to connect. So the profile is a very big first step. That should be fleshed out. That should be your resume on steroids. People should have a really good idea of who you are, and then you reach out and you start making those connections. So it's baby steps of understanding what's important, how do you demonstrate your value. Again, networking is mutually beneficial. I cannot emphasize this enough. So to give you another story of how I have been an example of networking being mutually beneficial. So I've moved around quite a bit in my career. And a few years ago, probably 8 years ago, I moved down to Georgia. I was living in North Carolina and I was working in education and I was also working as a wellness coach. And I wanted to get into the Georgia market. And I thought, I don't really know exactly what the Georgia market is like for wellness coaching. So I'm going to find somebody who is an expert there. So I reached out via LinkedIn to a health coach, and she was also a vegan chef. And I said, hey, I'd love to get to know you. I see what you're posting is awesome. I love the recipes. I love your connection with your people. I'd love to get to know you better and see if maybe we might even have a mentorship type of connection. So it worked out awesome. I paid her back by giving her a lot of business knowledge. I helped her kind of manage the back end of her business. And she paid me back by being my mentor. So she showed me the Georgia market. She helped me understand what it was like to be in this very small area that we lived in. And then about 6 months later, I actually ended up taking over her restaurant. So all of that happened from somebody I had never met before. And the reason why it happened is because I was creating value. I was constantly depositing into that piggy bank before withdrawing anything. That's a very important concept to understand, that you want to connect, you want to demonstrate value. You are not asking for a whole lot to begin with. So imagine having a network of 500 plus people, including employer connections who have explained to you personally what they're looking for in a new grad before you graduate. How would that impact your chances for being the right candidate? 1,000,000 times. So it's a huge asset. So LinkedIn by the numbers. So now we have talked about, here's this dream job. I want to get that. I need to work backwards. What do I need to do to get there? Networking is that big macro. Cannot emphasize that enough. Networking is how you're going to get there. So why LinkedIn? Why spend so much time discussing this one specific social media site? So LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network with more than 630 million users and 177 million in the United States. There are 303 million total active monthly users, meaning people that are logging in on a regular basis. 2 new LinkedIn users every second, which I'm hoping all of you are going to join that group. Over 15 million active job postings. That's huge. 70% of companies use social media to screen candidates. 92% of recruiters use social media to search job candidates. And in the digital age, the most common ways that new jobs are found are really through networking and employee referrals. We call this the hidden market. So just like my example with how I joined Herzing University, that was the hidden market. That's how I got there. That position wasn't open. It wasn't posted on Indeed, but I was connected to it. So when you think about that big umbrella of a network, it's accessing that and then seeing what can that network do for you. So why use LinkedIn? other than all those amazing numbers that I just told you. So network with other professionals. That's a very big deal, especially if this is a career change for you. It's a great career research tool. So are you brand new to the nursing field? Are you brand new to healthcare management? Are you brand new to accounting? Are you brand new to information technology? You don't need to start as a beginner and feel like you have no idea how to get through the woods. LinkedIn is going to help you understand, what do professionals who are a little further than you, what do they do? What do they read? What do they share? So it's an excellent basis to really find out those kind of things. So it helps you find jobs and it lets employers find you. I mean, that's kind of amazing that they can reach out to you. You can access experts in your industry. I love that. I use that all the time. You can join LinkedIn for groups, for discussions, news, resources, knowledge, and opportunities. And lastly, you can create your own personal brand. So I love that it really is an e-resume, an electronic portfolio that's just always out there. So you have your resume, you're very actively sending that out to people. This is a way for you to spend a lot of time up front, have something out there that's going to keep paying you back in dividends. So here's a real example. This is actually from a message that I had sent to somebody just a few weeks ago. So again, I work with the Akron and the Birmingham markets, and I also have a lot of students in Georgia. So I was reaching out to someone at a large hospital chain in Georgia, and I just told this person, hey, you work for, this is actually Tanner Health. You work for Tanner Health. I'm a big fan of your hospital system. I'd love to get to know you better and see what we could do together. And he immediately wrote back to me, hey, Mary is our talent acquisition specialist recruiting for nursing right now. She said wonderful things about your university and she wants to schedule some time to talk with you. Please email her at. Like, that's amazing. This person doesn't know me at all, but I paid him a compliment, or I paid his company a compliment and said, I just want to chat. I want to get to know each other. So he immediately wanted to sign up for that, wanted to better understand what was going on with us too. It's no different for you either. So you want to connect to recruiters, and we'll kind of get into that, like how you connect, what you do, but you're going to ask questions to better understand what are they looking for, what you can do to prepare yourself. Are there any possibilities for mentorship, shadowing, internships? This is how you start to open up that bridge. All right, so at this point, I'm actually going to hand it over to my esteemed colleague, Rachel, and she's going to chat with you about those specific areas of your profile, how to craft them, and how to get them to work for you.
Wonderful. Yes, now that we've learned why we need LinkedIn, we need to know how to create a great profile. So here are really some of the key areas. Of course, LinkedIn has a very deep portfolio of what you can put in there, but these are really the keys, and this is what we'll hit on today. So of course, a picture, you really want to make sure you have some type of headshot, and we'll go through that a little more. A headline, a great summary, your work history, and your education, of course, because we all know that that is very important. So with your professional picture, now I know not a lot of us have the opportunity to get a professional headshot done, but you know, this would be a really great opportunity to have some type of picture taken. Maybe you have a friend or coworker, you know, that is able to take your picture, you know, dressing up nicely on a plain background, you know, would be something that would be great as a profile picture. You know, selfies, those things, you know, keep those to your other social media platforms and really focus on LinkedIn as professional. Because, you know, we always say a picture is 1,000 words, right, or more. So making sure that that's the first thing they see is you professionally. Yeah, because that's, again, the first thing we'll see. So again, if you don't have one, you know, cell phones and things like that have really great cameras these days, and just being able to snap one, you know, on a background, just like I have here, would be a great opportunity as well. So then creating a headline. this is, that second thing they see, because the headline is right here underneath where it would say Hersing student. So Hersing student is an example here that would say your name, and then underneath would be your headline. So you have 120 characteristics to use here. And LinkedIn will automatically divert it to a very generic headline. But this is your opportunity to really create something special about who you are and really brand yourself. So making sure that you target those keywords there. Maybe saying something about aspiring security professional, information technology student, or dedicated nurse, serving to serve the public, or something like that. There's just a lot of different things that you can use there. Something to really kind of freshen it up and make it your own. And that's the one thing I think great about LinkedIn. It is that opportunity to be professional, but still bring in some of your personality. Where, LinkedIn, where a resume might be more rigid and structured, where this is still your opportunity to add a little life to what you have. So in the summary, again, talking about bringing in your personality, this is an opportunity to really tell them who you are, who you can help, and how you can help them. Because, right, everybody wants to know what's in it for me. What's in it for me to read Marissa's LinkedIn profile? What's in it for me to, take the time to do that? As a recruiter, that's what they're going to want to know. So again, bringing in a little bit of your personality, keeping it professional. The one thing great here, again, you can be a little creative, tell your compelling story. In really thinking of that brand, when we think of Nike, we think of Just Do It. And again, thinking of that summary and that headline for you and your brand. And again, any maybe any mission statement, any kind of great accomplishments or career goals that you have achieved or things that you've done would be a great opportunity to put in your summary as well. So work history, of course, this is important. The one thing that I do recommend work history in your resume compared to LinkedIn. You don't just want to copy and paste what's in your resume, because then it would just be redundant. But again, being maybe a little more specific. It is recommended in LinkedIn, you can talk in first person versus third person. Now, I don't know if it necessarily matters, but that is one recommendation that some would recommend. But of course, in your work history, you want to have your job title, the company name, including when you started, and if you're currently working there, present. The one thing really nice about LinkedIn is when you go to the work history section on LinkedIn, when you're creating your profile, you'll just click on the plus sign, and it will actually kind of walk you through each of those steps of the things that go into that work history. And then again, making sure that you really touch on the accomplishments and the skills and the things that you can do. Similar to your resume, you really want to, again, show those transferable skills that you have. Again, what's in it for me for reading this? Can this person do the job that I'm looking for? Thinking about keywords too, that's important, because as Jennifer talked about, recruiters can look through, if you turn on your profile, which we can talk about in a little later, if you turn on your profile to be searched by recruiters, they would search it by keywords or skills that you've done. So again, that's where it's really important to bring in some of those skills and keywords of things that you can do. And just one statistic here is that people that do keep their work history up to date are 18 times more likely to be discovered by members and recruiters as well. So, pretty outstanding to know that that does work when we put the time in.
Rachel, we have a quick question that came in.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, about work history. So Namunyo is wondering, how far back should one go into their work history? 10 years, 5 years? How far back?
Sure. Well, I think that this is the one thing where any career professional is probably going to tell you something a little different. And I think it's going to depend on, one, how much history you have in that 10 years. I usually recommend 10. Now, if in that 10 years you've had 20 different jobs, that's where it's a little different. That's where you would want to really pick out the positions that have been the longest and have the most relevant skills to the jobs that you're applying for. So that's where maybe you'd want to scale it back to 10, or excuse me, to 5. And again, I always say with your LinkedIn profile, your resume, whichever you're working on, do what's best for you. Do what's best that's going to show the skills that you have. So I don't know if any of my other colleagues have any other comments on that.
Yeah, I'll echo what you're saying, Rachel, that it really does depend on the individual. And I know that can be hard to hear, but very similar to your resume, it depends on the job that you're looking at. So if you're changing industries, you may really want to focus on transferable skills, but you may have a lengthier history, you may have a shorter history. You have to think about the mind of the recruiter. What do they see when they look at your profile? So if you had 10 years in a very different industry, are they just seeing a lot of repetitive skills? So in that case, maybe you want to spend a lot more time elaborating on your education, your volunteer project, something else. So think about what transfers into that industry for how long it should be. If you're in the same industry and you've been taking successfully strides, you're going into leadership positions, you're moving up, you may want to showcase all of that so that they can see that you took on more and more responsibility. If you're in IT, you might want to showcase what are some of the different skills and systems that you've been using. So it really kind of depends on the person. Definitely talk with your career coach so that they can say, hey, this is awesome in your background. We want to make sure that's on there, even though it's 20 years ago. So it really depends on the person.
Yes,
And
of
I'll
course.
echo that quick a third time, and then also just say, if you think about it in terms of your personal brand, what are your experiences that are really going to help build up that brand and showcase those relevant skills that you want to use in your next job?
Yes. And of course, as your career coaches, that's what we're here to help you with too. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. That's what we do every day. So of course, your education, super important. That's why you're here, to really, boost that up and show that you've accomplished that. So of course, adding that, again, in LinkedIn, it does make it very convenient to put that in there. Once you start putting it in, you can link it to your specific school, and it gives a nice emblem. Makes it great to use. And then of course, either put your graduated date or your expected graduation date, accomplishments, maybe like the Dean's List or any other accomplishments, ABK if that's applicable. And really putting your LinkedIn and your work history, those things, it does make it easily searchable to then search others that maybe are alumni of that university that you attended. So for example, at Herzing University. So that makes it great. Maybe you have past employment history as well. You can look at others that will actually link you and tell you how many people you have in common on LinkedIn that attended there also. So again, it just boosts up that opportunity for networking. Because of course, if you are a Herzing graduate and you find another Herzing alumni, that graduated maybe 10 years ago and they're doing awesome in their career, and you are in that same career field, I would suggest to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm also a Herzing graduate. You already have that common ground. What a better way to break that ice and, make that networking fluid, like Jennifer's talked about in other opportunities. So again, thinking about that and, those small things that we might not think about every day that really can make a big difference. Because I know if somebody reached out to me from my alma mater, I would be 10 times more likely to help them than, maybe somebody else. So just an example there. And, necessarily high school, you wouldn't have to put on there as well if it's been within 5 years. Although I think that's a personal preference because, again, on LinkedIn, it does give that opportunity for more networking opportunities when you link to those specific entities. So here's just an example of putting in the education and giving some content to that education as well, maybe even uploading some projects that you've done, some important things. So there are those great opportunities on LinkedIn to be able to do that. All righty. So now I will pass it back over to Jennifer to finish out and tell you, really how to use all of this together to make LinkedIn work for you.
Perfect, thank you. And actually, to kind of connect what Namunyu was just mentioning with what Rachel showed on the last screen with detailing out your education, you can really elaborate on any section of this, whatever is going to make you seem like a more qualified candidate. So whatever is transferable into your industry, whatever is a big deal. So I work with a lot of nursing students and a lot of nursing students that have never been a nurse before because that's what they're in school for. But if they had any kind of healthcare background, they would really elaborate on that. But plenty of times they don't have any healthcare background, so they might really elaborate on their education. So on that screen, it really talked about how to describe your education further in depth, how to include projects, articles, different things that you might have created. All of that is sort of second level, I would say. If you're a beginner, you may not be thinking about that. But again, that's a great way for you to connect with your career coach, review it, and say, this is kind of light so far. As an IT professional, we don't see a lot of examples here yet. What projects might you have from your classes that we could attach here that you could showcase? So remember, this is very different than a resume. This is a living document that people are going to be accessing that can really see what you're capable of. So it takes multiple goes at it, multiple layers. In fact, all of us are still getting better at it, and we've been on it for a really long time. So it's important to know you do it once, you keep going back, you keep doing layers until you see it and you're like, man, I look super impressive. And you'll get there. So you have your profile ready. So now what? So once you feel like, okay, I worked on my profile, I have this awesome electronic resume, I have some projects in there, I have a really good profile photo that's very professional. Now what do I do? Also, I probably connect with my career coach and he or she said that I'm awesome. So now I want to start networking. I want to get out there. So how do we do that? So the first thing you want to do is create your strategy. A strategy is incredibly important. It's going to be you'll just want to click all the X's as it says, hey, you might know this individual. Because LinkedIn, it has algorithms running it, just like Google, just like all these other sites. So it's going to say, hey, Rachel, you're brand new to this site. Maybe you know these other connections. Do you just want to click X's on all these people to start driving up your connections? No, you don't. Because the point of LinkedIn really is, I know this person, I can vouch for this person, I trust this person in some way, shape, or form. So you don't want to be so casual about it. Yes, you are building up your network, but you want to do it with intention. So there are these 4 key pieces that are important for you to think about. It's a professional relationship building site. Professional being the key word there. How are you growing your network? How is this person going to help you? And how are you going to help them? It's mutually beneficial. So I know I've already shared a couple stories about what that means to me, but that's going to mean something to you, hopefully, as you start to do this. So if I'm entering into the IT profession, a recruiter is very important to me, but I'm very important to a recruiter because they want to hire people. So we have a two-way relationship. My neighbor, who I know works in IT as well, connect to him. We have a mutually beneficial relationship. So you start with who you know and you start to expand those circles, but always think about that. How is this a two-way street? So connections that matter. Again, it's awesome to have 1 million followers on every single social media site. But if you're not doing anything with them, if you're not connecting in a meaningful way, it really doesn't mean anything. Like, it is just a big number that can make you look excited, fancy. So you want discussions that move you. So with those connections, just like I talked about before with the 401k, how are you continually investing in it? How are you continually developing it? That's super important. So those conversations should happen often and they should move you forward. So in my example with the vegan coach that I worked with, we started off on LinkedIn. Then we moved to having coffee and we met at her house. And every time we were learning from each other. And it took quite a while, even though 6 months doesn't seem like a long time, within that time for her to say, hey, I trust her. I know her skills. She's awesome. She should take this over. So remember that it's not a one and done kind of thing. You're not just adding people. All right, so thinking about your strategy, this is a good time for you to take out your pen and paper. So you can start to think about what is your strategy? How do I create my strategy? So when you think about your network, I want you to think about almost like circles, and those circles go out. So I don't know how much you know about how LinkedIn works with their suggestions, but your first inner circle, your level 1 connections are people that you know. You connect with them. So when Namunyu creates his profile, sends me a connection, I say, yes, I'm in his inner circle. I'm on that level 1. But now his level 2 is everybody that's connected to me. So I have over 1,000 people connected to me. So now Namunyu has me as a first level connection, and he has 1,000 people connected to me as his second level connection. And that's the same for every one of the people that he connects to. Third level connection, which is what you still are able to view in LinkedIn, is everyone who's then friends with my 1,000 people. So that's how this all just expands like this huge bucket. So it's important to think about, what about that first circle? Who do you know? So first, start out with your inner circle, your classmates, your instructors, your coworkers, your family, your former coworkers, and your friends. And again, don't forget your career coach. In fact, add all the career coaches. If I have over 1,000 people, Rachel has over 1,000 people, Jenna has over 1,000 people, that's now showcasing this global market that you can get connected to super easily. But we're not the only people. How many people do you think recruiters are connected to? So as you start to think about that first circle, really think creatively. What am I trying to do here? So then look up employers and follow them. So if I'm thinking, okay, I want to work at a hospital, the biggest hospitals near me are Aurora, Froedtert. If I'm in Ohio, it might be Summa Health, Cleveland Clinic. So I want to go to their webpage. I want to follow them, and then I want to look at who works there that I can also follow. So again, recruiters, HR professionals, people in my field, people in the next level of the field, those are awesome people to target. So also join professional groups. So if I'm a brand new nurse, join a nursing group. If I'm an HR professional, join an HR professionals group. There's so many different special interest groups, which we'll talk about in a second. Join all of those things. That gets you access to more people. And like I said, first level, second level, third level, as you join those, you get access to everybody else's network. So after that, look for other industry professionals in the position you want, especially if you're looking for a leadership position. Let's say that you would like to be an LPN charge nurse at a long-term care facility. Typically, there's not a lot of them at each facility. So you may not be looking at the facility that you want to work at and looking for the person in that position, but you might look at other places that are similar and say, hey, how did you get that position? What kind of skill set did you need to use? How did you develop? Walk me back through graduating from school. What did you do next? How did you get there? So look at other people in a position that you want to get into. Look for mentors, recruiters, and HR professionals. So mentors is a very big deal to me. Like what I shared before, you never know when you're going to find the right mentor. So always kind of put that out there. Always kind of look for feelers or put feelers out there so that you can see how can we mutually impact each other? How do we get along? What could I work with them on? Send a note. So every time you add somebody or you try to connect to somebody, send them a note. LinkedIn will give you the option to write just a short note to them explaining who you are, why you want to connect. This is super important. This is your first time where you're showcasing that two-way street. Like, hey, Rachel, I noticed that you work in career development at Herzing University. I love what you've written about higher education. If you have a chance, I'd love to pick your brain on a couple things. Now, if I send that to Rachel, she's going to be like, hey, that's awesome. You looked at my profile. You saw what I created. I have some time to connect with you. That means a whole lot more than somebody who just did connect. All right, so joining groups on LinkedIn. So there are a lot of different things you can join. You can also follow hashtags, follow topics, and join groups. I think joining groups is a wonderful thing to do, and it should be a part of your strategy, especially if you feel like I don't really know a ton of people that I can connect to just yet. Go for the topic then. So when I started out, I worked in higher education for 12 or 13 years. And when I started, I didn't know a lot of people in higher education, but I knew I wanted to get into training. I wanted to get into career coaching, some different aspects. So I've actually been on LinkedIn for a very long time. That was one of the first things that I did, was look for human resources groups, look for career coaching groups, different things that had an interest to me that I could see people that maybe were beginners like me, or maybe they were way further in their field. But when you join that group, similar to like a chat room, you're going to see articles that they post. You're also going to see job opportunities that they post. And that was something I was kind of surprised by. I didn't really expect that. So I think that's kind of a cool feature. But just the discussions, the connections that you can have, you don't have to know those people before that. It's a really good way to get access to them. So one that we want to highlight, of course, is a Herzing University alumni group. This is one of the easiest way for you to get access to people across the country. So by joining that group, I think maybe on the next slide, we're going to show you what it looks like to have access to that group. Yep, there we go. So this is what the page looks like currently. So we have almost 20,000 alumni who are on this group. That's huge, and that's growing every day, especially as we have a group that's graduating the next week. So we also have almost 30,000 followers. So when you join this group, you have access to see where do the alumni live? Where do they work? So when you start to search down, okay, Herzing University is global. We have people all over the world, all graduates everywhere. But I just want to see people who are in Akron. I just want to see people who are in Birmingham. I just want to see people who are in Wisconsin. You can easily do that, and then you can start to see where are they working at. So as you see that, that gives you a great way to bridge into that conversation to say, hey, Jenna, I noticed you're a Herzing alumni just like I am, and that's awesome. And I love what you're doing at Froedtert Healthcare System. It's super inspirational. I would love to pick your brain about how you got there. If you have a moment, I'd love to hear your story. So again, that's saying, Jenna, I'm witnessing you. I'm seeing what you're doing. I love what you're doing in the world. Can you help connect me to that? That's a great message. Jenna, unmute yourself. Would you respond to that?
Absolutely, I would.
Good. And anybody would. I can tell you that I get messages all the time from people I don't know. And I'm always excited as my little chat thing lights up, oh, you have a new message from somebody. It's oh, that's super cool. Somebody wants to ask me a question about something. I want to see how I can help them. So think about it that way. The people that you connect to, they could be recruiters, they could be other professionals in your field. They feel super honored that you want to connect with them, but don't just leave them hanging. Really explain who you are, why you want to connect with them, what you're hoping to get out of it, and what you can give them. All right, we are already on to next steps. So I know that was a lot to cover in this last little segment. And what we were really hoping to do today was to give you a lot of basics so that you can really feel okay, I get it. I understand why this is so valuable. I understand why I need to get started right now. And absolutely today, we want you to get on LinkedIn, create a LinkedIn profile, update your profile to include the information you learned today, proofread for accuracy, and connect with your career coach. We don't expect you to remember everything from this training, but we do expect you to kickstart it so that we can really help you and say, okay, Namunyu, at this point, I see where you're going with this. Your volunteer section absolutely is what we need to amp up. So let's get more in there. Maybe we even have a project we can put in there or something. Or we might say, hey, that's a really cool photo, but it's not quite the most professional. Let's see if we can take a different photo. So connect with us. Review career readiness success networking document in the Career Center. So everybody has access to the Career Center as a student and as an alumni. And that really showcases some basics. So it's almost like a checklist that you could go through and say, yep, I got that, I got that, I got that. I don't have that. And you can kind of see where you need to work on it from there. So it's also something we're going to send you, but it's in the Career Center as well. And LinkedIn also has, we have a link in here, but we can send it to you so that you can see some LinkedIn resources from LinkedIn. So a lot of ways to strengthen yourself. The biggest thing is this is day one of LinkedIn networking, but it's not day one of networking. So remember who you're connected to. Reach out to them. Start to strengthen those skills. The more you do it, the better off you're going to be. It's like your 401k, and make sure you're ready for retirement when you actually are looking for that meaningful career move. So that's all that we have for you today. Thank you for doing the poll. It looks like that's been coming through pretty good. Appreciate the feedback quite a bit. The three of us put this together because we really are passionate about what we do, not only with LinkedIn, but with all the other topics. And we're happy to create more workshops for you if that's something that you feel like you could benefit from. So you see all of our contact information on the screen now. Please feel free to reach out to any of us with questions. We would absolutely love to review your profile. We would also love to review your resume and help out in any other way that we can. So please contact us. Let us know what you thought. Let's see if we got anything in our chat.
I did see Namunyu had mentioned something, asked about volunteering, and I know Jenna responded there. And just as she said, he asked, you know, is it important about volunteering? And of course, any of that other extracurriculars or things that might be outside of, you know, those things that we talked about. Like I said, LinkedIn does have a very large profile of things that you can put on there. So anything like volunteering, internships, any other study abroad opportunities, things that you did, those are all really important things to put on there. So absolutely, those are great opportunities to really showcase, you know, the depth of skills that you have.
Yep.
Any other questions, please put them in the comments and we'll try to address them. I did upload the career readiness document that we talked about that's also in the Career Center, so you may see that in the chat, otherwise we can send that after. And I did upload the slides from today as well. So if you have questions, we did record this, so we will be sending that out if you guys would like to see it as well to reference at another time. And I know Namunyu had asked another question about what type of presentations. You know, looks like we did get some good feedback from this one. So we will be looking to put one together. So we did put a poll here of some other ideas, but if you guys have any other ideas of presentations that you would like to see, let us know. We are always open to feedback because of course we want to give you something that you want and need and not just provide randomness. So we're happy to hear feedback from you guys.
Yes, thank you all for taking time out. We know it's the evening when you want to relax and eat food or be with your babies, and we do too. So we really appreciate you connecting with us, and we will definitely do more of this in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Please let us know what questions that you have, and please do connect with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Bye, Rita.